In February 1978, 5 men, grown men, friends, left a basketball game to drive home. They never made it. Months later, their bodies were found scattered across a mountain. But here is the detail that keeps FBI agents awake at night. One of the men, Ted, was found inside a secluded trailer deep in the woods. He had somehow survived for over 3 months. When they found him, he was lying neatly in a sleeping bag. He had starved to death, surrounded by food. He had food, but he didn't eat it. Why? And more importantly, what were they running from? To understand the horror, you have to understand the men. They weren't hikers or survivalists. They were the boys, 5 friends from Yuba City, California, with mild intellectual disabilities that made them reliant on routine. On the night of February 24, 1978, they attended a basketball game at Chico State. They were seen buying a single jug of milk and a pack of Hostess cupcakes. Then, they got into Ted's blue 1961 Mercury sedan and vanished. When they didn't return home, police dismissed it. They thought the men had run away. But days later, a helicopter spotted the car. It wasn't on the main road. It was 20 miles east of where they should have been, high up in the Plumas National Forest, on a road no one uses, blocked by snow. The scene at the car was the first impossibility. The car was stuck in snow, but there was no evidence of digging or trying to free it. It was as if they simply got out and walked away. Inside the car, police found jackets. It was freezing that night, below freezing, and they left their coats in the car. They left the milk and the cupcakes untouched. The keys were in the ignition. The battery was dead from the headlights being left on. But here's the detail that breaks the narrative: the car was in perfect working order. It wasn't stuck mechanically. They could have stayed in the car. They could have honked the horn. They could have stayed warm. Instead, 5 men with the minds of children walked into a blizzard, into a forest, with no jackets, no flashlights, and no survival gear. Why? The search continued for months. The bodies were found one by one, scattered over a 20-mile radius. But the locations make no sense. 2 of the men were found together, lying under a tree. They had died of exposure. That is expected. Then, a 3rd body was found 11 miles away from the car, in a dense thicket. But the case hinges on Ted Weiher. Ted was found inside a Forest Service trailer, a place that had been searched by rescuers weeks prior. They had walked right past it. When Ted was found, he was lying on a bed, wrapped tightly in blankets. He had starved to death. But here is the horror: he was surrounded by resources. The trailer had a stockpile of canned food, a propane heater, and matches. The propane tank was full. The cans were opened, with a can opener found nearby, but they were empty of food. Someone had eaten the food, but not Ted. His beard had been shaved. His expensive ring was removed from his finger. He died of starvation in a room full of food. Who shaved him? Who opened the cans and ate the food but let him starve? The final victim, a man named Gary Mathias, has never been found. Gary was the only one in the group with a history of mental illness. He was the most functional. The theory for decades was that Gary had a psychotic break, led them into the woods, and then killed them. But the autopsy of the men in the woods showed no signs of violence. They didn't fight. They didn't struggle. And if Gary was the murderer, why is his wallet sitting neatly on the dashboard of the car? The FBI entertained a terrifying theory: they weren't running from nature. They were running from someone. A predator who followed them up the mountain. Investigators found evidence that someone else had been in that trailer. Someone who knew how to use a razor. Someone who ate the food. But if a killer was there, why did Ted survive for 3 months? Was he being held prisoner? Or was he being kept alive, just long enough to suffer? The Yuba County Five is known as the American Dyatlov Pass, but it's actually more disturbing. Because Dyatlov involved hikers in a storm. This involved 5 gentle men who drove up a mountain they had no reason to go to. The official police report suggests Gary Mathias suffered a paranoid delusion and fled into the woods. But that doesn't explain the shaved beard. It doesn't explain why Ted starved while sitting on a bed, wrapped in blankets, with canned food within arm's reach. It doesn't explain why the food in the car, the milk, the cupcakes, was left untouched, yet a single bag of Hostess cupcakes was found placed perfectly on a log, half a mile away from the car, deep in the forest. Someone arranged that scene. The FBI closed the case in 2016, stating that Gary Mathias is likely deceased. But if Gary isn't out there, then who shaved Ted's beard? And why do the local rangers in Plumas National Forest still refuse to camp in that area alone? The answer died with the boys. Or maybe, it's still walking those woods.